Welcome to City Council work session for Monday, March 1st, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Of the United States of America.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And justice for all.
Roll call, Mr.
Councilman Scarinci,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns.
Present.
I believe Councilman Strawn is absent tonight.
Yep.
Councilman Scanlon.
Present.
And President Restinetti.
Present.
That's 6 here, 1 absent, Strawn.
Okay. Thank you, Ali. So we're going to start with a little bit of a change on your agenda. We have, excuse me, the mayor joining us to provide us with a quick update regarding the Reinvention Collaborative Steering Committee. Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Council President Sophia Restinetti has asked me to come down tonight to provide an update with regards to the timeline of the current police collaborative, and said that she had been getting some questions and wanted to start talking about what are the next steps, as today is March 1st. And the deadline is April 1st. And so while you have 2 representatives on City Council who are part of the committee, those being Councilmember Joe Burns and Councilmember Tom Scanlon, I'm happy to come down and give you kind of a brief update on the timeline of where we are right now and when we tentatively hope to hand this off to the City Council, and then Council will kind of decide what some of the next steps are. But I believe most of you should already know that today, March 1st, is the last day for any sort of participation in the survey that we put out several weeks ago. It is the cutoff period, so we do expect that period to close tonight. And that over the course of the next several days, the Fin Institute will be compiling that information. We do have 2 meetings scheduled this week for our stakeholder coalition. Those are tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. and Thursday at 6:30 p.m. I do anticipate, based on my conversations with the Fin Institute, that they will be completing their report on Monday, March 8th, and all the members of City Council have, the contract or the proposal on what the 3 items were that we were hiring the Fin Institute to do. And I would say that tentatively, by the end of next week, next Friday is March 12th, so I would say by the end of the day, Friday, March 12th, maybe earlier, but most likely by the end of the week, next week, we will be handing off, we being the stakeholder coalition that is meeting this week, and we'll have meetings next week as well. We'll be handing that document off to City Council so that, let's see, then that's the 17th, I believe is, I'm sorry, the 15th would be the following Monday. You have a work session. Then you have a business meeting on the 17th. We would be asking for City Council to have a special meeting at the end of the month. I would imagine probably on March 30th. And then at some point, I would assume, but this is really up to City Council, that City Council would schedule its own public hearing, an independent public hearing, similar to what you might do if we're doing a bond or some other project where it's limited solely to input on the plan. And whether you do that at your regularly scheduled business meeting on the 17th, or you do it at a separate period of time, that's, your discretion, President Resinetti and the members of City Council. But what the stakeholder coalition is going to be doing this week is talking about all of the individual letters, public comments, suggestion, ideas, input, recommendations, demands, whatever adjective you'd like to use, that has come in over the course of the last several months. We have compiled a list, and we'll be going through it to talk about what's legal, what's constitutional, what there is consensus on, what we would like to include, et cetera. And so I expect those spirited conversations to take place over the course of this week and next week. And then when we get the fin report in as well, I'm sure there will be some recommendations and best practices as well as a result of the survey and as a result of the data that we asked Fin to review as well. I did touch on some of this in my State of the City, and while I don't think everything falls under the umbrella of these four main themes, I think it's safe to say that the overwhelming amount of information or requests centered around transparency, accountability, a desire to diversify the Binghamton Police Department in a manner that was more reflective of the needs of the demographics of the community, and investing more resources into how the police department responds with regards to substance abuse calls, mental health related calls, domestic related calls, et cetera. And again, that there are certainly other ideas and suggestions that came in, but there was a lot of discussion around those four major points. Every request from every organization has been documented. Everything that we have will be a part of this report and handed over to City Council in a very transparent and complete process. I did want to pass along to Council. Some of you may already be aware of this, but the survey, at least as of today, it's just over 1,400 responses, and we believe that's a significant number of responses. I believe the city of Schenectady had just under 700 responses, and their population is at least 20,000 more residents in the city of Binghamton. But I did want to make you aware of a concerted and intentional effort by one of the local organizations to intentionally manipulate and skew the data. There was really a concerted effort where one group filled out all 63 or 60 plus questions the way that they would encourage other people to fill out, and intentionally said that this is part of an effort to undermine the city's collaborative efforts to manipulate the data. And I think we just wanted to make you aware of it. This specific group is one that I have been vocal about my concerns in the past. I've referred the leadership of this group as members of an anti-police hate group, which I continue to highlight and specify, and we'll stick with that description of this group. And I think that those are concerning actions in an effort to undermine the process we put in place and to discourage the diversity of voices that we've put a great deal of time and effort into ensuring that those very diverse voices participate. I think that if you look at the steps the city has put in place with regards to this process, no municipality has taken the steps that we've taken with regards to as many public input sessions, providing an opportunity over a several-month period for members of the public to either email written comment or to participate in very specific stakeholder meetings, as well as not stakeholder meetings, but public input sessions related to specific groups, as well as a general public comment period. And I would also add that on a separate note, as NICOM president, I hosted a meeting with the executive committee last week that included the mayors of Schenectady, Syracuse, Albany, Poughkeepsie, Ithaca, and a whole host of others. And I asked them if any of their legislative bodies had approved any of the plans that they had been discussing over the course of several months. And there was not one member, one mayor that indicated their city councils or village councils had approved them yet. So, we are in the exact same spot as many other municipalities across the state are, and that's using the month of March to advance our plans and have the city council bodies pass them. But I did want to also let you know that with regards to the survey, the Finn Institute has a statistician on their staff. They are actively going through to make sure that there are not duplicative IP addresses to ensure that one individual doesn't intentionally submit hundreds of the same sort of responses, and they are able to detect these sort of statistical anomalies because let's face it, this is not uncommon. This is not the first time an individual or organization, some community wants to skew data one way or the other. But I did want to at least let you know that we have been made aware of it. We have passed this along to the Finn Institute, and the Finn Institute has mechanisms in place to detect this and to make sure that our data isn't skewed. So Council President Resinetti, that's kind of an update on the timeline with regards to how I see it. And it's, once we hand this off to City Council, other than making sure that it gets, our plan is approved by, I would say March 30th. It's really up to Council how they want to, what additional steps they want to put in place.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to come down and talk to us about that. So it sounds like, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get the report soon. It sounds like, there's just so much work that has gone into it. I know that Councilor Burns and Councilman Scannell have been part of this, and I thank you all. But I have to say, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. I'm a little concerned about the whole skewing of data or surveys. So you're saying that there's I can't even say statistician, thank you,
Yes.
on staff. And so these folks have ways, I guess, to keep track of those sort of things, which is a good thing. But as you're talking, I'm wondering, like, as a community, then what do we do about something like that? What do we do? I'm still processing this, about such what would appear to be unethical at every level to kind of demean the work that everybody has been doing for so long, trying to get folks with diverse voices to participate in this. So that's just, I'm just processing what I just heard from you, and I just wanted to make that comment. But I thank you for coming. I don't know, I know you have somewhere to go. I don't know if anybody else has anything to.
Councilman Resinetti,
Yes.
this is Councilman Scanlon. Can I make a comment, please?
Go ahead, Councilman Scanlon.
All right. I had heard about this before about attempting, and I'm going to go further than the mayor. I'm going to call the group plot. Obviously decided that they wanted to skew the data here, and they put on a website, which I went to look at to see for myself, and they sure enough, they had put out their answer the questions the following way. So we have two members of plot on city council. I would strongly ask them, why would plot think it's okay to skew the data so we hear from one voice as opposed to letting the data just fly like it's supposed to fly? I would hope one of the two plot members on council could address that for me, please. Thank you.
Madam President?
Go ahead, Councilman Burns.
Yeah, hi. I'm not a member of Plot, and I don't know don't know who, I don't know. I think it's sort of like Antifa. I don't know if there's a membership on there or not, but I don't think anybody on this city council was trying to skew anything. And it sounds like it kind of went that way. But I have a couple of questions for the mayor. And that is in regards to the legislation itself. Now, the Finn Institute, we're going to have 2 more meetings with the Finn Institute. And then the Finn, who is actually going to write the legislation? Does the RL, is it going to come from you, or are they going to give us a document with what they consider should be considered, the points that we should be considering in the legislation that we're going to write, and then we're going to write it? And if it is a piece of legislation, if it's an RL from you, then are we going to be then allowed to add to or take away and all that? And if it is that sort of complicated, and we're going to be running out of time, is there a way of a possible extension in that? I would hate to have us have to just say, we got to vote on this right now because we're going to lose all the money from the state if we don't vote, and this is just the way it is. So I'm just wondering.
Sure. So Councilman Burns, I'll try to take those a little bit out of order. One is we're going to have more than 2 meetings this week because we're going to get the report on the 8th, and the stakeholder coalition will want to meet next week. We have scheduled the meetings for this week, but either tomorrow or Thursday, we will, again, talk about our meeting schedule for the following week. I would imagine, because of course, the report is coming in on the 8th. And so really what what you need to do, it's really, an acceptance, of the plan, or an acceptance or a rejection, I suppose, would be the converse of that. You're accepting or you're rejecting of the plan. You specifically, and Councilman Scanlon specifically, since you're on the coalition, you have the opportunity, in real time to do the things you're talking about. I want this in, I don't want this in, et cetera, et cetera. I do think that, and I will say that one of the components that the mayor's group did talk about is hearing from their constituents the way that we are hearing from our constituents in Binghamton, that they would like some sort of mechanism in place to continue to have conversations. So whether that's ensuring that the implementation is taking place or just continuing to have these discussions, and also the recognition that many of these ideas are not something that can be done in 7 months. Some of these things may be multi-year ideas that are really complex, that involve participation and with 1 or more municipalities, et cetera. The governor's order was never to have everything implemented in 7 months. It was to start the conversation and put an infrastructure in place, recognizing that crime and law enforcement strategies is something that's always evolving. So that's something that we want to include in our plan as well, so that we can continue to meet after April 1st. We can start talking about what the deadlines are with regards to implementation. And as you know, I'm only here for the next 10 months, so I would want to continue to meet at the very least on a monthly basis over the course between now and the end of the year, just so that we can have some benchmarks on our implementation, because there are things that we want to do. There are some things that we can do very quickly with a snap of a finger, and then there's some things that we want to do with regards to some of the partnerships with our nonprofit organizations. And that's going to take some time. And the funding mechanism as well, there are some things that I'm going to want to coordinate with my budget address, which is in September. So, it does make sense to continue to have meetings and to go from, this is what our plan or our general objective is, as far as now making sure that we're funding it, and as far as implementing it. But as far as asking for an extension, I don't think that we need an extension. I mean, I think we're exactly on pace with many other municipalities. I'll take that a step further, and I think that this concept, that we started late or that Binghamton was behind, it is simply a false political narrative by critics who don't like the fact that we've opened up this process to a very diverse group instead of just rubber stamping, one specific set of demands or letter that was issued. And I would certainly bet that if I, reversed course and said, I simply would ask City Council to rubber stamp, some of these letters, I don't think any individuals or organizations would be asking for more time, right? I mean, these things are contradictory. So there's more than enough time to do the things we want to do and to set up an infrastructure that's in place to continue to make these things a reality. And if I would encourage you to, in fact, Lee Rogers, the city clerk, if you want, can send you with some of these other municipalities. I think Broome County is about to vote on theirs. I think we sent you Broome County's. Delaware County, I think, just voted on theirs. And so you can see that everybody's approach with regards to just identifying concepts and implementation, they're all approaching it the same way, because you know that this can't be done in a vacuum, right, around deadlines. And the governor's office, who we have been in contact with on a regular basis, is telling us the same thing. We just want to know what your goals and objectives are, and we want some realistic timelines for implementation, and we want to know how you want to go about doing that. I've used this specific example before, that other areas in the state, they're saying maybe we need an alternative phone number to 911 for non-emergency calls, domestic, substance abuse. That could conceivably be a multi-year initiative to advance. The state doesn't expect you to have that done by April 1st, but they'd like to know that that's an idea that your municipality is coalescing around, and how you're going to go about doing those sorts of things. Now, that's an example of probably something that involves more partnerships, that's a little bit more complex, that might take a longer period of time. There's also some simple things when you're talking about transparency in your website that don't need to take a lot of time, and that are things that can be done very quickly. And then there's a whole host of things that are in the middle. And then there are some requests that come from national organizations that conflict with things like what the New York State Civil Service Law is, conflict with things that are subject of bargaining, collective bargaining agreements between specific unions, and things that may or may not be constitutional. And so those are things that are going to need time to be kind of fleshed out.
This is Councilwoman Friedman.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you. All right, so I have some questions on the timeline, but I wanted to address a comment that was made earlier that implied that being a member of a community group that is involved in doing grassroots community engagement is an insult, and I, first of all, don't appreciate that implication. And I think that a better question that we should be asking is not, having like doing a dog whistle to have me answer for an organization's motives, but I think a better question is, why do people feel like their voices are being systemically shut out from this process to the point that they feel the need to delegitimize the process and the tool that was used to garner community input? And while I appreciate that there were over 1,000 responses, I did take the survey, and to be honest with you, there were no open-ended questions. I just, I felt like I can understand the frustration in people who have been doing this work, that they were not able to adequately express their input through the multiple choice survey. So I just wanted to address that. I have some questions about the timeline. So if we are holding, let's say, a special business meeting at the end of March, and our public hearing maybe will be on the 17th, what if there's things that City Council wants to change or amend before the time that we vote on it? When would that be done?
Well, again, according to the governor's executive order, City Council is accepting or rejecting. I mean, I suppose one of the things you could do is you could reject the plan, and you could craft your own plan, taking things that you like that is in the plan and adding things that are not currently in the plan. And because what the state wants is a plan that's adopted by the legislative body. But my suggestion would be that council members either work with Councilman Burns or Councilman Scanlon, or both of them, as they are both on city council and are part of the stakeholder group, to make sure that their input is included as part of the plan. Because as of right now, and both Councilman Burns and Councilman Scanlon can attest to, we have provided both of them and all the stakeholders with every request that has come in, without context, just a bulleted list of here are the suggestions, whether it's based on the written correspondence, whether it's based on the public input sessions, whether it's anything that has come into us. Everybody on the committee has access to, and that's what we are going to go through. Council's role is to accept or reject, and if you want to reject, then you're going to have to come up with, I believe, your own plan on how you want to do that. And whether it's taking what you like out of the coalition, but the governor's executive order says that it's the coalition that we put together that really needs to come up with this plan. So.
Right. Well, so if, let's say there's something in there that we don't feel like is representative of the, our constituents' needs when it comes to police reform, and we reject, then when is our time to revise that?
Well, I mean, if you reject it, you would, right? I mean, if you don't like it, then you would vote no, would be my thought.
But I kind of feel like, what's the point in just voting no if then there's no chance for us to revise it in a way that we feel like better reflects our constituents?
Right. It's a democratic process. So if the majority of city council, if any majority of city council wants to, and Ken, I don't know if this is something you want to jump in on, but it's similar to if you want to scrap the whole process and do your own plan, you really could do that.
It's the same legislative process. It would be at a meeting. If it gets held, you'll have to have another meeting, but the April 1st deadline, I don't think changes.
Right. I mean, that's my concern is, and again, I haven't seen this plan yet, but if we want to revise something, we are likely going to miss the April 1st deadline.
And I don't believe that that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, you
if
said
you're having your public hearing in mid-March, you have another 2 weeks, you'll have a special meeting. It'll be second read legislation, and it'll either be amended or it will be approved.
I see. Okay. And will we be able to see the results of the survey in an aggregate form?
An aggregate form, I don't know. I guess I'll have to, I mean, the results of the survey are the results of the survey. You're asking for it in a different form than the answers to the questions?
No, I'm just saying that, I mean, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, we will be seeing the results of the survey in the form of a recommendation by the Fin Institute or by the Reinvention Committee. I was wondering if we would have access to the raw data of the survey.
Raw data of the survey. That's what you're asking?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
You're asking for the raw data of the survey?
Yeah, I was wondering if council would have access to that.
We will ask the Fin Institute that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. You bet.
Yep, and I know that we have Mr. Garner waiting for us. I think I saw him there for a minute. Are you there? Hi.
Hi,
How
I think
are
I
you?
am.
Good
Can
to
you
see
hear
you.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. How are you guys doing? You guys good?
We're good. We're good. We're all plugging away. We were thrilled that you were able to join us. I'm sorry you had to wait a little bit.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing you tell us all about the state of the county.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate the time, and I'm not going to monopolize a lot of your time because I know you guys have a busy meeting to get to, and I apologize if one of 3 children run in here and do something. I'm at the house and it's Zoom, so it is what it is, but it makes it fun. But no, I appreciate everybody giving me a little bit of time. I really tried every time when I have a state of the county address or I have a budget address, I really try to get out to every municipality and just kind of do a miniature one of those for each of our municipalities across the county. I think that's really important to engage with our towns, villages, with our city throughout the year. And I missed it last year because we had COVID. And of course, that really has been the state of the county over the past year. We weren't able to do the state of the county address because of COVID. We weren't able to do the budget address. We were just so wrapped up in COVID 24/7. Things are getting a little bit better, so we're able to go out at least in this type of format and do that. So with that being said, really, like I said, the state of the county is COVID. I mean, COVID has changed us so much over the past year. It's affected just about everything that happens in our lives, and there's things that it's affected that we don't even know, then we may not know until years later. There's been certainly the public health aspect of it, but also our kids in schools, and with what it's done to our local businesses and what it's done to our budgets, and many other things. And what the county has done with a number of our departments, but I would say principally with the Broome County Health Department and the Office of Emergency Services, we are responsible for responding to this pandemic. And we've been responding ever since we declared a state of emergency in March, which still continues to this very day. But our departments have been wonderful in stepping up, not just the health department or the Office of Emergency Services, but our Division of Security, Office for Aging, Parks, the Sheriff's Office. They have all been working together to do a number of different things throughout COVID. And, I think everybody has in some way, shape, or form stepped up at every level of government, whether it's the federal level, state level, county level, or local level of government. Everybody has had to do something to step up during this crisis, and even non-government as well. One of the things, I just want to talk about 4 or 5 different things that I think are important that we did. Right off the bat, one of the things that we had to do, we had a massive shortage across the world, really, of personal protective equipment, the masks, the gowns, all those different types of things, especially in healthcare settings. Our Broome Security and Office of Emergency Services, we put in all the procurement requests for, especially in the early days, for those things. We continue to do it for schools in those days where it was virtually impossible to get anything. We set up a donation drop-off point at the former Macy's in the Oakdale Mall, and we were able to collect over 1 million items of personal protective equipment that were then sent to local nursing homes and hospitals. Probably the most important thing that we've done is contact tracing. We started off this pandemic with 3 contact tracers. We actually had 3 on the payroll pre-pandemic. We have had to staff up to have anywhere between 75 to 100 contact tracers. And these are the people that, once somebody tests positive, then they contact them, they go through their whole close contact history and get that information, and then they make phone calls to their close contacts that if they did come into contact with them, they put them in quarantine. And these are like, I equate the contact tracers to the army of in COVID. They're our front line, and they have been most responsible for preventing the spread. And it's all about making sure that our hospitals don't get overwhelmed. And they have done a great job with that. And we have had a number of people that are trained contact tracers that are not even in the health department, because we just had to borrow people from other departments. So we have people in parks, we have people from the arena doing contact tracing. Probably the biggest, another big thing that we did was work to reopen businesses and schools. The county health department played a large role in that. A lot of our businesses have been reopened, but many are still only open, but with restrictions. And some businesses are not even reopened yet, but our schools are reopened. We still have 2 meetings a week with superintendents to go over a variety of issues. We do all the contact tracing as well within the schools to whenever a student tests positive. A big thing that we've been doing is testing. Testing was very difficult in the beginning. There was almost no testing supply. One of the things that I'm really proud of is that the county started a mobile testing site that we realized once that some of the, with UHS and Lourdes had testing, and then the state put in the drive-through testing site. And one of the things that we wanted to do was get a rapid testing site so people could find out the results in 15 minutes right there, but also put it in different places. So we started this site last fall. We literally took a DC Transit bus and converted it into a mobile testing site, and it allows us to move it around. In the city of Binghamton, because this is the city of Binghamton, we have had the site at St. Patrick's Church, St. Paul's Church, the Broome County Health Department, Rec Park, MacArthur Park, and to date we have tested 6,333 people at these specific sites. We've conducted many more tests across the county, but just in the city of Binghamton, we've conducted over 6,000 tests and pulled 858 positives. And what's great about that is that people can quickly know their test result, and we can more quickly get our contact tracers on the case and calling their close contacts, get them into quarantine, get the people who are positive into isolation, get the medical attention to kind of quickly follow that up. Big thing now is vaccinations. Vaccination is the number one thing that we're concentrating on right now, because in order for us to have some semblance of normality in our lives, we really have to get a good percent of the county population vaccinated. There has been a limited amount of vaccine at the start, but I really have to give credit to the previous administration, the presidential administration. Operation Warp Speed allowed us to come up with 2 great FDA approved vaccines. We just had another one approved yesterday, I think. But with Pfizer and Moderna, just to be able to do that in a year, very effective vaccines as well. But it's one thing to get them approved. It's another thing to ramp up production and get them out to people. And you're talking about with these first 2, there's 2 doses. So if there's 300 million people, you need 600 million doses. And we've had a limited vaccine rollout at the start. And but what we're seeing every week is we're getting more and more vaccine. And my commitment to the community is, as soon as we get the vaccine, we put it into people's arms. So we've created a mass vaccination site at Broome Community College. We are able, if we get the doses, to vaccinate 2,500 people a day at that site. We are not doing 2,500 people a day because we simply don't have the doses. So the state gets the doses from the federal government, and then they allocate those doses based on population. But like I said, we're getting more and more doses every week, and I believe within the next couple of weeks, maybe the next month or so, we are going to have a lot of doses, and we're going to have a lot of doses to give out at SUNY Broome Community College. We've also done some other pop-up pods. We did a pop-up pod a little while ago at St. Mary's. The ACA just had a pop-up pod. The one at St. Mary's is run by the health department. The other one at the ACA was run by UHS and the ACA, but we have been getting into different parts of the city working on vaccinations. Where we are right now is that Broome County is ahead of the state average in vaccinations. We have 19% of our population in Broome County with first doses. State average is about 14%. So we're doing a really good job of when we get the vaccine, putting it into people's arms. And that's really going to be the story of COVID. The story, you know, for the rest of this year, we had 2 waves of COVID. We had one in May and June of last year, and then we had a wave that everybody else in the United States had that was tied to holiday gatherings, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, even a little bit of Super Bowl. And that really, we really saw the vast majority of COVID cases coming in January and in parts of February. Our positivity rate was probably at its height in the first week of January. It was at 10%. So 10% of every of tests were coming back positive. We've been able to get that down to 3%, which is right about the state average. Right now, we're seeing a little bit of a pickup from Binghamton University, which interestingly enough, the semester before, Binghamton was not a problem. A lot of people are, you know, in the fall, we're speculating that, you know, when the students come back in the fall, this will really drive up COVID rates. They did not drive up COVID rates. This semester is a little different. We're seeing a spike in cases at Binghamton University, and they put over the past week or two a number of restrictions in, and I think that's going to be helpful in getting their positivity rate down. So, and then the big thing with keeping the rate down is vaccinations, and that's really, you know, I think by the summer, late summer, a good portion of our population will be vaccinated, and I really think that's key to bringing back our economy. It's key to getting us back into doing things that we've done before. There's that's the name of the game, and the city of Binghamton has been a pretty good partner, especially with the vaccination process. They've trained some public safety people to be vaccinators, to put those shots in the arms. I think at the St. Mary's pod that they were working that pod, and as we start to really turn up the vaccines and get more doses, you know, that site is a collaborative site that is not just made up of county employees. It's made up of employees from local you know, hospitals, and we'll certainly be welcoming all the people that can work those pods that can work those pods. Besides COVID, you know, certainly we've had to deal with the effects of COVID. The economy has really taken a hit with COVID, and but I do believe the economy is starting to get much better. In April of last year, we saw an unemployment rate of 15%. That is down to around 6%. You know, I'd like to get it back to where it was the year before, which was like 4 or 5%. But you know, turning around that unemployment rate in less than a year is pretty good for the county. Sales tax has been something that a lot of people want to know about. We were faced with a very devastating sales tax, the lack of sales tax revenue situation. Is, you know, May, June, July of last year, we were looking and projecting at something like a 12 to 13% sales tax hit. And of course, we share our sales tax with the local municipalities, so they were looking at that as well. We have been able to turn that around, which I think is pretty phenomenal. When you shut down whole businesses and industries, you're just going to have less sales tax. And we went from being down 12 to 13% to just down around 3% when we finished 2020. So that's a remarkable turnaround. Got some good news from the state. I know that the city has had funding withheld. The state has withheld about 20% of funding to local governments, and the county has seen their share of funding withheld. We had almost $18 million in funding withheld from the county by the state. Good news is that the state said they made a decision that they're going to give us back about 3/4 of that money, and then the other 25% they're going to have a permanent cut. We weren't happy about the permanent cut. Now, I'll talk about this in a little bit, but if the federal government does deliver a pretty good stimulus package to the state government, they might actually give us back that other 5% of the 20 that they withheld. But right now that's a cut. But we did get, we are going to get 17 to 18 million dollars of the money that was withheld from the county back in the month of March. So that's been really, really helpful for us. We're looking at Congress start to move this last COVID-19 stimulus package through the House of Representatives last week. I think on Friday voted, for that package, and the estimate for the county is pretty good. It's going to be helpful to our financial situation that's obviously been devastated as a result of this. It wasn't just sales tax that we were down, but we were down in a number of funds as well. County is supposed to get about $37 million estimate. And again, it's an estimate. It's not written in stone yet. It's got to pass the Senate as well and get signed by the president. But in that initial House package that they passed, county would get $37 million and the city of Binghamton would get $44 million. And that's all of our municipalities are getting money as well. So that's going to be helpful with our finances, but we've really, been working with the Broome County Legislature to improve our finances over the past 4 years. The 21 budget delivered a third straight tax cut to Broome County taxpayers. We were able to drive our fund balance. When I came into office, we had about a $250,000 fund balance. As of last year, when it was audited, it was at $14 million. So we grew it by a factor of about 60 times. And that fund balance is not $14 million anymore. It's probably been cut in half because of what happened with COVID. One of the things that I am proud of is we made a commitment to our municipalities that even in very difficult economic times, we would not change the sales tax formula and take money from them to balance the county's budget. This happened throughout the years, as late as from 2011 to 2016, that the county changed this formula and diverted millions of dollars away just from the city of Binghamton alone in sales tax revenue. We were committed not to taking anything, and we didn't. And I'm really glad that we were able to do that, because that allowed our local municipalities like the city of Binghamton to continue to grow and budget for what they needed to budget. Just a couple of things I'm looking forward to this year in the city of Binghamton that the county is involved in, amongst other things. There's a lot of stuff that we're wrapped up in various departments that are related to the city, but really looking forward to, we got a state grant to do murals and mosaics in our I districts and in Endicott, Johnson City, and Binghamton. And we've got several slated to be done this year in the city of Binghamton. So I'm looking forward to that. This year, we're also looking forward to giving Governmental Plaza a facelift. Governmental Plaza could use a facelift for sure. If you look at the parking area and that is shared with the city and the county and the state, really needs an upgrade. I mean, we have like a lot of great events. I just remember, Luma, when we had that, the last time that we had that, that's right out there. And, certainly we would like to spruce that area up a lot. So we're working on doing that, making more green space, putting in different planters, redoing the roof, redoing a lot of areas, cafe space, seating, things like that. Expect to see that happening. And then the county's also invested a good amount of money in youth programs that are happening in the city, Vines, City Events and Playground program, Catholic Charities, Safe Harbor, 4-H Education Center, where there's programming done in the city, TTLP. The county's invested into some summer programs. 2021 is going to be a really interesting year. I think that, just like 20 was, 21 is going to be a lot about COVID, but I think I'm cautiously optimistic that the story of COVID is basically we're going to get out of it. We're going to get back to a sense of normality that we had before the pandemic started last year. And I think it's a real testament to our community. I mean, our community stepped up. It's not just government that stepped up. It's a lot of different organizations stepped up. Even our restaurants, I think probably one of the best examples of that was our restaurants who have been almost completely shut down for much of last year. I remember them, tons of them, providing warm, meals for our hospital workers in a time where, they were in a lot of trouble because they were shut down. They were, not really thinking about themselves. They were thinking about other people. They were thinking about how can we help our kids get food? How can we help our hospital workers get food? And I think that's the real spirit of Broome County. It's the real spirit of Binghamton. That it's that kind of spirit that will, take us out of COVID and I think make us better. I think when you look at adversity, you can either, you can make two decisions. You can get caught up in it and never come back from it, or you can, it can break you, or it can make you stronger as a community. And I think COVID's going to make us stronger as a community. So, that's kind of what's going on in Broome County. My office is open for anybody that has any questions, anything, any ideas that they have at the county level, any way that we can collaborate with the city and the county. I'm all for it. And I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything like that. I know you guys have a meeting, a busy meeting coming up, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions or anything like that. But I do understand if you got to move on and you got to get to your business.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And yeah, we do have, a little bit of business, but this is nice. This is important. It's important. It's so nice that we have you here and to hear you talk about what's been going on. I mean, obviously it's been a crazy busy year, and who would have thought, right? Last March that it would have been, a whole year thing, and God knows when it's all going to be over. But I do believe, like we said, that, we're going to begin closer to something more normal. And I did like what you said about, it isn't just government who, steps up in those during these times. If anything, it's really our community that steps up and how we become much stronger. So, but anyway, I did want to just take a few minutes for folks to ask any questions, if you wouldn't mind sticking around just a little bit longer.
Sure, absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions?
Madam President, I have a question. This is Councilman Tom Scanlon.
Go ahead.
County Executive Gardner, thank you for coming and spend some time with us. So last year, I recall that the county obtained a $30 million anticipation note. My question for you, has that been paid off? And if it hasn't, what's the plan in place to pay that off?
Yeah, so typically we do take out tax anticipation notes every year. Probably, I want to say 7 or 8 years before I came in, the county was taking out tax anticipation notes of $20 million. We were able to get that down to $7 million. And then COVID hit. And between the state taking $18 million of funding away from us, between sales tax was down 3%, so that's another $4 to $5 million. Casino revenues is another couple $1 million, a number of other revenues. We were down about $30 million. We are finishing our books for this year, so we're basically like, okay, where did our departments end up? And we're, I think that, we have a good chance of completely paying that off. And when I mean paying that off, I mean, we don't have any more tax anticipation notes, which I'm glad, because we've had them for ever since I can remember. When I was on the county legislature, we had them. So I think that I'm cautiously optimistic that the county is actually going to come out of this stronger. Well, we're going to come out in a much stronger financial situation with COVID at the end of this year than we did before we got into COVID. And I think a lot of municipalities are going to be able to say that. I think our municipalities throughout the county have been pretty conservative with their budgets and been smart with things. We've been able to do that because for a number of reasons, we have been able to build up our fund balance, so we had a cushion. We did a hiring freeze, which we're still on. I mean, at one point we had not filled over 300 positions in Broome County, and we had to cancel or suspend capital projects. I mean, we did all the things that you guys did. I mean, you guys have done all those same types of things as well. I think we haven't exactly determined how we're going to move that anticipation note is due. I think in a few months, but we were able to really save money and come up with some good budgets. So I think, like I said, I think we're going to be able to erase that for good. It's good news for taxpayers.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, I have a couple, if you don't mind, just real quick. What's the Veterans Project at Vestal Hills Country Club? What's the status of that? I haven't been up there in a long time. Has the project started? Has construction started?
Well, we purchased the property, and because of COVID, it was suspended. So we're looking at what the grants. Some of the ways that we were going to pay for that project were for grants that we obtained from the state, which are now in question. So the project is been suspended at this point, but we're committed to delivering a one-stop shop for veterans in this community. We want to be able to put all of our great veteran services under one roof. We're going to do this one way or the other, and we just got to see what our financial situation looks like before we can decide which direction we're going to proceed, but that'll happen.
Thank you. And one more, and I'll let you go. So there were some funding that was cut for many of the contract agencies, or at least some of them were put on and pause, right? Including Ross Park Zoo, for example. So those cuts are obviously having impacts on those organizations, and I'm just wondering, because they didn't plan on it, right? So I'm just wondering, what's the status of that, if you want to talk about that?
So we had to cut, we had to tighten our belts. I mean, when you have $30 million worth of revenue taken away from you, it just doesn't kind of like you have to find ways to cut your belt. So tighten your belt. So one of the things that we had to do was we had to cut contract agencies, and I don't remember the exact level that we reduced them, but I think given our current funding formula, two things on that. One is last year, despite the fact that we were in COVID, we get most of our money in these contract agencies from hotel motel tax. So for every person that, every hotel night that someone stays in Broome County, we collect that tax, and then we fund great programs like the contract agencies that you're talking about, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Ross Park Zoo, other agencies. So last year was a really difficult year for us, but because we had built up a fund balance in that account, we were actually able to pay out all the agencies, but we depleted the fund balance. We went into this year and we said, okay, we don't have any more money in that fund. We can't give you 100% of what was budgeted. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a percentage of that, but if the revenues start to pick up again, which they're going to at some point, but they're not right now, as the economy starts to reopen up, we'll be able to provide more funding and hopefully get you to your budgeted level. as the state pays us the money that they're supposed to give us, and as we get a federal stimulus, I think we will be able to restore the budgeted funding for those contract agencies this year. But because we get that money from the hotel motel tax, and because our hotel motel stays are down like 50 or 60% over the last 12 months, we weren't able to pay them their first quarter payments, and they were all like very understanding. I think they were really glad to get their full funding last year, despite us being in COVID, and they were glad to get some percentage of funding this year. And we've always said, like, look, if we get some relief from the federal government, we'll be able to help you out even more. If the state starts to just simply give us the money that they've owed to us, we'll be able to be in a much better position to help you. And it looks like that's going to happen. And so that's good news for the contract agencies.
Yes, that's great news. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I don't think any other questions, right? Or Councilman Burns, did you have something to say?
I just wanted to say thank you, Jason, for coming.
Yep, thank you.
Absolutely. Good to see you all. Take care.
You take good care.
Yep.
Okay, so now we are moving on to Chief Eggleston. Am I right? Yes. Chief, are you here? There you are. Sorry for the delay. How are you doing?
Doing fine.
Good. Tell us a little bit about RL 21-44, please.
Okay, we just, in the fire department, we want to apply for a FEMA staffing grant, SAFER grant, which would be good for 3 years of salary and benefits for 4 firefighters. They've altered the rules this year because of COVID a little bit. There is no cost share or match, so this is a very good grant if we can get it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Chief, I do
Yes.
want to...
Oh, sorry. This is Councilwoman Friedman. I was muted. I apologize.
Go ahead.
Hi, Chief Eggleston. I was just wondering why this piece of legislation is expedited.
Because the 12th is the end of the application period. That's our fault for not getting it to you quick enough. March 12th, we have to have the application.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, I did want to say a quick thank you for the training for training the firefighters to be able to give COVID vaccinations. So thank you so much for that. And also for the participation at, I think it was St. Mary's pop-up.
Yes.
So big thank you to you and to all of you involved.
Okay, I'll pass that on to the firefighters. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. No other questions, comments from the chief? I think we're good.
Well, good, thank you.
All right, take care. Moving on to Megan. Megan, are you here?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
I am good, thank you.
Go ahead and tell us RL 45, please.
Okay, 45. This is another side lot program offer to purchase. The city demolished blighted properties at 3 and 7 Mattis Street last December, this past December. And we have an offer to purchase from St. Mike's, the church that's right next door, for $375, which is the fair market value. They'll keep it green space.
Any questions? Okay. How about the next one? RL 21-46.
Okay, this one is amending the project scope and the agreement that the city has with Salvation Temple Church. This is one of the Salvation Temple is one of the partner churches from our program that we announced over the summer to support community meals programs. This doesn't change the funding amount that was given to them. It just expands the scope so that it can include a stove, a dishwasher, and potential plumbing upgrades. The church's stove went shortly after we executed a contract for them. So that's a need that came up. And then they decided they wanted to add a dishwasher and may need plumbing upgrades. So Like I said, it doesn't change the amount that was allocated to them, but it just expands the scope to make these items eligible.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Megan.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to Liana. Hi, Liana, are you here?
Hey, yep. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Thank you for waiting. Can you tell us a little bit about RL 21-47?
Yeah. So on Labor Day of 2020, the governor signed into legislation that all municipalities have to develop an operational plan for communicable diseases for future communicable diseases, and it was presented to the unions before coming to council to see if they had any comments, which none of them did. It's a non-disciplinary policy. It's more of just guidelines in case something like COVID happens in the future.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, that was easy. Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Mr. Standish, are you with us? Ray, are you here?
No, I don't see him logged on.
Okay. He's not logged on? Okay. Well, I guess we can move on to Jared if he's available. Jared, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about these 3 RLs that you have?
Sure. So RL 21-48, or excuse me,
49.
21-49 is authorizing an agreement with Whittam Planning and Design for development of the Stadium District Master Plan. In your packet, you'll see attached a couple work sessions ago, we brought down an RL to establish the funding lines for this program. It's funded, I guess it was back in December of 2020. 50% of the project is being funded by an Empire State Development grant. This is to provide master plan development services for the stadium district, looking at infrastructure, land use, potential economic development programs, and also environmental concerns in the district surrounding ISEC Stadium. This is to leverage the public investments in the stadium and also take advantage of a Empire State Development grant. Whittam was selected by a review committee of economic development, planning, and engineering, and we'd like to get them under contract. I'd ask for this to be expedited because based on the grant requirements, we have a tight timeline to get this project done. And based on preliminary discussions, the concept of doing a full environmental impact statement may be required as part of this, which is a very lengthy process that they'd like to get underway as soon as possible to meet all of the state deadlines.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to the next one.
Okay. RL 21-50 is an agreement with Woodford & Florist. This is the latest small business to be eligible to receive the COVID CARES Act funding to pay for things like mortgage, utilities, overhead, insurance, etc. This will be in a $7,500 award, and again joins kind of the last few months of work sessions and small businesses receiving the city money.
Any questions? Okay, on the next one. RL 51.
Sure. Let's see here. The next one is to accept a $50,000 payment from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for expenses incurred to expand the capabilities of the Southern Tier Crime Analysis Center. This is an announcement that was made a little while ago regarding the expanded center, and DCJS is covering $50,000 in costs for the build out for that expansion.
Any questions?
Yes, this is Councilwoman Friedman.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam President. Hi, Jared. How are you?
Good.
Will this grant cover the entire cost of this center?
No, there's a couple different things happening. DCJS is providing about a total of $500,000, but a lot of the costs that have to do with siting the center there are in furniture, equipment, and technological upgrades, computer monitors, servers, that sort of thing. So DCGS is paying for those costs at running it as a wing of the state crime analysis lab network.
And what are the other costs besides what BCJS is paying?
So the city is providing the sort of vanilla box of the office. So that was a cost that the city had to take on. And then DCJS is essentially filling with not just equipment, but also the collaborative to have staffing in there as well.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
This is Councilwoman Riley. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, President Rezanetti. Hi there, Jared. So just a question. Ultimately, will this innovation center be revenue generating through the various collaborations for the city?
I do not anticipate it to generate revenue to the city. No.
And
Any-
but will we then pursue grant funding every year to continue the staffing and support that will be covered by this grant this year?
So the grant that I'm speaking of is just for the some of the build out elements, but you are correct that not that long ago, a city council did approve a grant for DCJS to staff an investigator position, I believe, as well as a civilian position as part of the Crime Analysis Center. With the expanded personnel, it's really just a matter of additional opportunities for other police agencies or even the city of Binghamton to identify grant funding for staffing. So that's absolutely a possibility, as has been done in the past.
But there is no guarantee. So will we ultimately assume responsibility for those positions?
So the positions of the Crime Analysis Center that the city is responsible for funding, whether we get reimbursement or not, but actually Binghamton police officers and civilian employees is staying the same. What the expansion allows is for other police agencies, whether it be the city of Binghamton or particularly state police, high intensity drug trafficking area employees, to add staffing and personnel to expand the capabilities. So the more police agencies in one room sharing police intelligence, sharing information, working in a coordinated fashion on drug interdiction, violent crime, et cetera. That's the value add as part of having the Crime Analysis Center expanded under one roof.
Okay. Okay. So again, just for clarity for me, because again, if we're inviting people into this space, are they do not have to pay for the space, but we're benefiting because they're in the space. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. But in terms of light, gas, and what have you, the city of Binghamton is responsible for the space.
That's correct, yes. And that's as part of our agreement with the Division of Criminal Justice Services going back to 2013 when it was initially placed in the basement of City Hall, that we would house it as the Southern Tier's largest law enforcement agency.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, this is Councilwoman Friedman. I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So you said that this will allow for a space for other police agencies, for example, the state police, to collaborate on investigations. But is this going to increase any of the personnel? Or I know you said it won't, the number of Binghamton police officers will stay the same, but will this facilitate an increase in the number of officers working, for example, at the state level?
I don't know. That's really up to them. But when we talk about expansions, it's typically because the types of investigations that are happening or the types of programs typically involve more experienced officers. It's adding staffing from within their agencies, or perhaps folks that are working at a local PD or at a New York State Police barracks right now could spend a couple days a week at the expanded center, using that as an opportunity, whether it's the county sheriff's office in Shenango or New York State Police. It's typically either adding agencies that are not currently as part of the program, or folks that are currently working elsewhere to have them work out of the crime analysis center.
I see. Okay, so this is only a space with equipment. I'm imagining it like a study room in a university library or something like that for agencies to come together.
Yeah, think of it more as a computer lab that has full-time staff from Binghamton University, et cetera, that work out of there, that work in conjunction with National Guard Counter Drug, U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, et cetera. And then the ability, or desks that are there that can allow other agencies to work out of there if they're working a case, et cetera. It's a highly collaborative center.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Jared. Okay, and we have Chuck here covering for Ray. Chuck, tell us about RL 21-48.
Sorry about that. I was in my office and I was muted and I couldn't talk to you, so I ran out here. But this is a RL for a change order for Barton and Judas for the State Street streetscapes outside the building here. Finalizing the final payments on that, and there's a change order. I think it's for like $13,000 for Barton and Judas for the final payment on that. If you guys have any questions, this is not being expedited. Ray could answer more questions within the next 2 weeks if you had any, Dre.
Any questions for Chuck right now? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chuck. All right, so last one is the appointment Cdhc at large. Is there any discussion, any questions about that?
Well, this is Councilwoman Riley. Can you tell us a little bit about this process and the Cdhc at large position?
So regarding the Cdhc at large position, as I understand it, is you are able to submit or support a candidate for this particular position as a council member, as a council person. And I don't know if Ken is still on there. Maybe he can help me out with that, just to make sure that I'm not making a mistake.
I'm here, yes.
Yeah.
So CDAC, every council member gets to appoint person, and council as a majority gets to appoint one person, and then the mayor appoints the other 3 members.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, then we'll move on to pending legislation.
Well, let me ask, I'm sorry, let me go backwards, President Rezanetti.
Sure, go ahead.
So we are now accepting as a council nominations for our council representative on the CDAC, not our individual. This is the one Ken just mentioned would be representing council as a whole, correct?
I believe, yes, you're appointing somebody to represent council as a whole.
Okay, so we are now opening the floor for nominations. Where are we in the process?
So we're considering right now, am I saying this correctly, Ken? We're considering nominations at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a nomination process per se. If a name comes up and if it gets approved by council, and actually I don't recall off the top of my head because I really haven't gone to business meetings in the last few years. I don't know if you vote on it at a business meeting or if you did it just at a work session. We can double check that. I mean, but if somebody has another name, they'd like to propose it, but it's a formal process.
And this isn't anything that's expedited. So I suppose folks could actually, what's the word that I used earlier? Not nominate, consider other candidates if there are any.
Okay, so that's good for all of council to recognize that this is now something we are moving forward with, and if there's someone they'd like to propose for as the council representative, there is now time to have that individual submit their CV. And what else is required?
I think just a resume. Am I correct?
Okay, and then we will discuss it as a
formal
council.
Process for it.
Okay,
Yeah,
but there's
no
also
formal
some
process. It's every council does it whichever way they would like to do so.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. There's also some vacancies that I think the individual council members have been trying to fill as well, correct? I think Steve mentioned that last time he was with us, and at our last meeting, they're meeting tonight actually, they're drafting a letter to council to help fill these vacancies so that they can have a quorum to make some upcoming decisions. So I wanted to separate the two roles, the council member, the CDAC at large versus the council appointed district representative, because there are multiple vacancies that need to be filled, but we as a group can come to a consensus to fill this vacancy.
There's two vacancies, I believe, but yes, they need to be filled, absolutely. And that's on the council member of that district. Did I say that correct, Ken?
Those vacancies are up to the individual council members. If council vacancies, that council doesn't vote on that. It doesn't go through a process. You just announce who your representative is.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Moving on, pending legislation.
Okay, so for pending legislation, we have a few items here. We have 40 Medford Street, we're selling that. In the police budget, we're doing a position payout for the administrative assistant. We have three different RLs from the Binghamton Johnson City Joint Sewage Board, amending their budget. We also have the contingency positions that we spoke about at our last work session. We also have the MOU between the city and the Teamsters Union.
This is Councilwoman Friedman. I just have a question. I'm looking, did we discuss RL 21-42?
That was the one that made
That's on page 38.
Is that not on the agenda?
It's on the agenda and pending legislation because the mayor kind of presented it at our last work session.
Okay.
Oh, it's under pending legislation?
Correct.
Right.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got confused because it looked like it was in the packet as an RL to be discussed. I apologize. That was my mistake.
Oh, thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I will call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I do have a question though.
Go on.
This is Councilwoman Riley. I just wanted to highlight what happened a little bit earlier, and what happened when we were in our question and answer session while we were trying to figure out the next steps for Finn was an example of how we are not being collegial. A member of the majority group recognized and verbalized his personal thoughts free of any validity, without any comment or reprimand from anyone else on this within this group. This is a strategy we have come to know over the past few years that we cannot continue. It's a form of bullying, and women have endured that too long. Unless someone can prove that anyone is a member of any organizations, particularly organizations that have been touted as a hate group by certain members of this body, it should not be done. This is the first day of Women's History Month, and it was a great way to open the month. So I just wanted to bring that up. But before we leave, are we interested in setting dates for public hearings for the Finn Institute process? One when the document is released, and then one after we draft our version.
Okay, a couple things. Number one, I would like to think that President Scallon, I believe, probably had some information in saying that, and I don't want to speak for him, obviously. I do agree with you as far as like respect with women, which is a separate issue, certainly as a woman and as the only Republican woman in city council for many, many years. I certainly have not been treated with respect by no means. So I agree with you, Councilwoman Riley. Absolutely. You know, and I think this is going to be a longer conversation regarding any of us supporting or participating in skewing surveys and silencing maybe some of the folks out there as we're looking to get more diverse opinions on this matter. And you know what, I really don't know anything about all this except what I heard tonight. And so these are my initial thoughts as I'm processing all this. I would certainly think that none of us would support something that is unethical like that, right? And regarding the meetings, we will, and I will make sure that we're all in the loop as to when we are going to have those meetings. It's not something that we're going to decide on tonight. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting, please? Motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Can I have a
Gio,
second?
you out there? What do you want to keep this meeting going forever? Can I second that also, Ken?
Second, can you hear me?
Yep, thank you.
Well, that was.